The next question is from Erdem.
Yes, Mr. Konoplyov, people suffer from the worldwide activities of ideologies such as communism, fascism, racism, social degeneration, moral collapse, poverty, hunger, spiritual emptiness, illegal activities, killing, conflict, war, and similar subjects. What could particularly the young generations be educated about these evils to see that they are rapidly dragging the world to the brink of material and spiritual collapse?
Well, I think it's much more difficult to keep ideology within one country just because people started to travel more freely. Believe me, when I lived in the Soviet Union, I was devoted communist. I hated capitalism because communism was white and capitalism was black, and that's what I was reading in newspapers because it was impossible to get a foreign newspaper. Once I got a copy of Time magazine, and I almost got arrested. I had to dispose of that. Now you can just go to internet and chat with people and learn about people and ask them why you do this, why you hate me, and get an answer. I don't hate you, but I was told you hate me. No, so you can find the truth. So internet communication, people travel and people talk, and people know more. 20 years ago, what would you know what happens in China or in Burma? Probably maybe in a day or two. Now you can follow it on live TV. So it's very difficult to hide. So it's very difficult to sustain a hostile ideology. I mean, you can do it in countries like North Korea and maybe some other countries. Russia becomes as an example that a lot of people still, they don't use ideology, but unfortunately they use the role of Orthodox Church as a glue which brings country together, and many people say this is the only faith we need to stay with and other faiths are not good. So I'm against that. But more and more young people get education in different countries, which is also important. When I hosted some events in Turkey, I hosted an event in Bilkent University, for instance, in Kadir Has University, and I saw how many students from different countries go there.
Yes.
So they learn about Turkey, they learn about Muslim religion. I'm learning about this too. I lived in Central Asia for several years, but I mean, religion was non-existent at that time. Now I'm just trying to understand different views of different people. I'm reading a book of Orhan Pamuk, for instance. It helps me to understand the history and what happened in Turkey before. And I wish that people who make decisions, they read what happened a couple of years before to understand what people think. Why Turkish people think like this or not differently. Why Iranians think like that. Why Israelis think like that. And it's not they started to think about this yesterday. Usually it accumulates by those ideologies by centuries. But I think now it's not a bad time to open the borders, and more important to open minds. And the more you use this and the more you talk in your program, the more better life will become, and the fabric of security will become stronger.
I totally agree. Jerry, you have any comment on that?
That's a really, really big question. It's one that could probably be a whole show in itself. But the one thing that causes a lot of the moral collapse, poverty, hunger, spiritual emptiness, illegal activities, killings, conflict, war, we can tie all of those socially together. Because socioeconomically, when you have economies that are suffering, and going back to what we said a while ago, when you have more money going into war, more money going into stuff like this rather than economies, the economy suffers. And when we talk about the economy suffering, we're talking about people suffering. So when economies go bad, when they're doing poorly, when you have a lot of poverty, hunger, you're going to have moral collapse within that because people lose faith, they lose hope. When people lose hope, then they turn to the other side of that, which is despair or apathy. And when you have that, then that escalates into more conflicts. And when you have this on national levels, it can lead to wars. Now, the younger generations, I completely have to agree with Mr. Konoplyov that the education people are getting from different countries right now, I think, is wonderful. I think it is imperative that this continue. I wish everybody could travel around and get educations from all over the world, even on the internet, and they can on the internet, actually. If they want to learn about another country, you can literally go on the internet, you can take a tour of another country, meet people, talk to people.
Yes.
And I think one thing that needs to be educated with our younger generation, okay, one thing is get an education. Another thing is, I want to pick on my own country here for a minute, and I know other countries like this, but because I know the history here. When you look at a nation that tries to put religion or faith on a back burner and take that away from people, we have, our government literally in our Constitution takes away the right for the government to support or to show any favoritism towards I'm not talking a faith, but any kind of religion, period, any kind of religion. So when that is taken out of a population, when you take faith away from people, they have to have someplace else to turn. When that's taken out of people's lives and they do turn to something else, we have the government over here that we have all kinds of social programs, we have people turning to that. Well, when those start to suffer then, and they have faith in that, and those start going downhill because of economical difficulties due to our budget and the amount of money we are spending on wars and the amount of money that, the U.S. has I think it's, I can't remember exactly what the GDP is right now. I think it's like 44,000. That's a very good GDP. But when you look at the numbers of the GDP compared to the population we have, it doesn't add up with the population. That's because we have a small number of people making a large amount of income. A lot of corporations that are doing this. And when that kind of economy is operating at the moment, which I refer to as corporatism, which is actually the mix of corporatism and government together, working together, that is actually the legitimate term, for when you have corporations working hand in hand with government, that is fascism. So I think a lot of younger people need to study history. They need to be taught history on what hasn't worked. And they need to be, in today's world, like was said a while ago, learning about other countries, learning about people of other countries, learning about cultures of other countries. The one big thing we have between East and West right now, the Middle East and the Western continent, is that people don't know cultures. They don't understand cultures. And this is because for so long it wasn't shown anywhere. We had, if you look at the late 70s, mid 80s, even early 90s, the only thing people got from the U.S. or from the Middle East or from Russia or from Kosovo or from any of these areas in the Middle East was what you've seen on TV or magazines. So now we have people that are just talking together just like we're all right here, 3 different countries on a TV show, and we're discussing these matters. You couldn't do this 20, 25 years ago. Even 10 years ago, it's fairly difficult. So a lot of, I think what the younger generation needs to be taught is that there's a big world out there on the internet, and the more you get to know other cultures, the more you get to know other people, the more you find the truth for yourself, the more we're going to see people coming together. Because the only truth we really know is that we learn for ourselves.